Today I want to talk about Ohio State at Michigan, what needs to take place for that game to be played, and what its impact for Ohio State, the Big Ten, and the college football playoff will be this season, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kidfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about Ohio State football. And I want to talk about why the game against Illinois was postponed and what that means ahead of a game that they're scheduled to play against Michigan State at 11 a.m. on Saturday. And I'll start with landscape here. The game was canceled because Ohio State chose to pull out. According to athletic director Gene Smith and even to a degree Ryan Day, they had enough players and coaches available to play that game. But in conversation at the highest levels, including president and even some TV executives and whatnot, Gene Smith and that group decided it was in the best interest of their student athletes, their football players, to not go to Champaign and play that game. And I think the part of this that you need to understand is where Franklin County is in relation to the pandemic and what that means for Ohio State, because Columbus, Ohio State, is in Franklin County. Now, in being in Franklin County, they had some really important news earlier in the week, in which the Ohio State Department of Health confirmed that Franklin County had jumped to alert level 4 on the public health advisory map, which is their purple. It's the only county in the state to reach that. And they have varying degrees of color to try to let the public know where each county stands in how it is responding to the virus. So as of November 19th, you had a few counties that were still at level 1, which is public emergency active exposure. Most of the state was in level red or level 3, which is very high exposure and spread. And then you had several counties that were in level 2. And then, of course, you had the one county that is in level 4, and that is Franklin County. So they decide to cancel the game because you can't postpone the game in the Big Ten because there is no margin for error here, so that, A, they keep the players and coaches as safe as they possibly can, and B, give them an opportunity to play this weekend if at all possible. The thinking here being you have enough positives at a given time that perhaps given time, those positives become negatives and you get back to being a healthy football team. Sort of remarkable what Ohio State had been able to do in remaining virus-free, or at least having the number of cases be as low as they were through their first 4 games. And that way, I also look at Oklahoma and what they had to do against West Virginia. I think it's remarkable that Oklahoma had been playing football since September and only had to start canceling and or postponing games the week of Thanksgiving. The week of Thanksgiving is also devastating. We're looking at a 15th straight day in which a game in college football has been canceled or postponed, and we're going to probably see a ton more. Now, in relation to what that means on the field, a 4-0 Ohio State, I think, gets into the college football playoff. I said that from the jump, right? I think if they got to 4-0 and they were really decisive in their wins, the committee would put them in. But they weren't really decisive in all of their wins, especially the Indiana game, right? 42-35. I think that game is being a little blown out of proportion because Ohio State scored 42 and put up 607 yards, but I've been as critical as anybody in the country about their secondary. They need to get it fixed, right? You need to find out which free safety's doing, help Sean Wade figure out that outside corner position, help Sevin Banks figure out his as well, and you need to come up with something else other than putting a Pete Warner out on David Ellis, wide receiver, right? Linebacker on a wide receiver, or find a maybe Pete Warner that can run with the tight end that you're asking Baron Browning to run with. Though Baron Browning was fast as hell coming out of high school, ran like 11-second 100-yard dash at like 240 pounds. So I don't know what it is there, but clearly there's some things to fix for Kerry Combs and that defense. But they certainly would love to play this weekend because you want to get to that requisite number of 6 games to play in the Big Ten championship game. Because right now, we don't know that the Big Ten Conference has any plans to change who qualifies for the Big Ten championship and who doesn't. The threshold for the minimum number of games required across the board is going to be 6 because the average number of games played across is not going to dip below 6. So a 6-0 Ohio State probably gets into the college football playoff, but you don't want to leave it up to that, right? And as things stand right now, they play Wisconsin on that last day if they're not playing for a Big Ten championship game, which is not ideal, but Wisconsin's still remarkably ranked, and, well, at least they're ranked in the AP poll. We'll see if they remain ranked in the College Football Playoff Selection Committee poll. And there's a lot of moving pieces to this, but we're going to find out sooner rather than later if Ohio State meets the threshold that they have set to play, because that was the most interesting part about all of this is the Big Ten Conference was not going to force them to cancel or postpone that, or I keep saying postpone for the Big Ten, you can't do it. They weren't going to force them to cancel that game. They had enough to go do it, but things had just gone so poorly in the eyes of the athletic director, president, and Ryan Day that they decided that it was time to try to put a lid on this thing. So much so that Bruce Feldman over the weekend was going, it ain't looking good. And that was Saturday. Today's Monday. But he was saying it wasn't looking good. We didn't even know if they were going to be allowed into their facilities at the Woody to go practice on Monday today. Sure, we'll find out more as news comes out because this segment goes live at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So timestamp that if that's where you are at. The other thing that I think is interesting about this is you want to have as many games under your belt now, but one of the things that people were very, very loud about is the number of games that you played across conferences should not matter. Now it seems that it matters a whole hell of a lot to a lot of people because their team has played a bunch and they think that their team should be rewarded for making it through this Corona season and playing a bunch, like 9-0 Notre Dame, right? Like 9-0 BYU, and on it goes, right? Alabama, I think, under the old bowl alliance where you have the UPI voting, the AP voting, would probably win the national championship this year because they've just looked the best. Like they're a clear number one team in the country, and I think a clear favorite to win the college football playoff championship this year, especially as they're probably going to just have to travel to New Orleans to play in the Sugar Bowl against the number 4 team, which I don't think is going to be as good, but it could be a good enough Ohio State team in a year in which they expect to compete for a championship, and that was the reason so many of them wanted to play this year, and that was the reason Wyatt Davis came back, who was a first-round draft grade selection. Shaun Wade came back, who was a first-round draft grade selection, and Justin Fields was telling everybody, I want to play. After a weekend in which Rashad Bateman at Minnesota, Terrace Marshall at LSU, and Sam Cosmi at Texas all decided to opt out, Ohio State still has all of their kids. They still have all of their future first-round picks, and I think the College Football Playoff Selection Committee would like to see them play. But right now, you got to just hope that they can get that game in against Sparty. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.